In this video, I'm going to go over the best rotator cuff exercises for shoulder pain that you're probably not doing to actually get you results with your shoulder rehab and progress forward and get back to the sport or maybe just the activity you want to be doing. So let's jump into it. First thing, obviously ask questions any time on the chat. So what is the rotator cuff? You might have heard this term if you're looking into shoulder pain, shoulder rehab. So 4 deeper muscles at the shoulder. We've got your supraspinatus, infraspinatus, subscapularis, and teres minor. And essentially, these are all muscles that you can't see. They're under the surface. They're deep around the shoulder blade and the shoulder, and they play a really important role in creating stability at the shoulder. Because your shoulder is generally a very mobile joint, and therefore we actually need to make it quite stable in a lot of cases when it comes to sport, but also pressing and lifting in the gym. So the next thing we want to talk about is how important is the rotator cuff with shoulder rehab. So it's not as important as people think. This video isn't going to magically fix your shoulder pain. It's probably about 10 to 20% of what it's actually going to take, because really what the rotator cuff is that injured or painful joint. But what you really need to focus on with rehab is these 3 things equally. The injured / painful joint, which is the shoulder in this case, the kinetic chain, which sounds complicated, but that's essentially just the rest of the body and how the shoulder works with the rest of the body. So in the case of the shoulder, this could be your shoulder blades, your spine, your rib cage, and then graded exposure, which is just a fancy way of saying gradually increasing your load and tolerance to the thing you want to get back to. For example, if that was swimming, it would be gradually doing more and more swimming. And then within the injured and painful joint, obviously strength, in this case, getting stronger rotator cuffs, is only a small portion of that. So when people say it's a magic fix, it's not a magic fix, and you need to look at the full picture, but it will definitely help your shoulder pain and set you off in the right direction. So first thing, the problem with banded rotator cuff exercises that you might have seen on YouTube previously. Number 1, poor progressive overload. Because they're banded, it's tricky to progress week to week, because the only way you can do this is by increasing the resistance of the band, which isn't particularly reliable, and you can't track the resistance of the band. Different bands have different amounts of resistance, and you don't know. You can't put a number on it, which basically means that you can get stronger with these banded exercises, but you can't measure it, and therefore you can't really improve it long term. This movement itself is not actually that effective for pain relief, and the reason being is because you're going through an active movement as opposed to an isometric, which is holding one position, which during the early stages of rehab is actually a lot more effective for reducing pain and building confidence. And a lot of the time as well, this is poorly programmed. So physios or coaches might tell you to do this every day, and if you do it every day, then by definition you won't be able to do that exercise very intensely, because if you train with a lot of intensity, by definition of the word intensity, you can't do that every day, you can't sustain it. So what's the solution? Rotator cuff isometrics. All an isometric is holding a particular position. These 2 exercises we're going to go over are great because they allow for good progressive overload, because we're either using weights or a cable machine. Essentially, we can gradually increase these week by week. We can actually track what we're doing, and therefore we can improve long term. They're more effective for pain relief because you're holding an isometric for a long period of time. This is sending a lot of signals to the brain to actually reduce tension, reduce stress in that area. And these 2 exercises are very easy to get right. So they're very difficult to get wrong, which is actually really important because you don't want a complex exercise in a lot of cases. The first exercise is in this position. So lying on your side, top arm straight out to the side, so at like 90 degrees. And very simply just holding a weight in this position. I've only got a 2 kilo plate here, which I was struggling to hold for 45 seconds. I'll get onto the sets and reps a little bit later on and how frequently you do it per week, which is obviously really important. But yeah, I'm just holding a 2 kilo plate here. Nice straight arm, nice and relaxed through the rest of my body. It's really that simple. I just do the allocated amount of time to hold this for and then swap sides. Obviously you can do this with a plate like I'm doing, or if you have a light enough dumbbell to start with, which is probably going to be 1 to 2 kilos, then use a dumbbell, just something that's comfy to grip. The second one is a cable external rotation hold. So pretty simple to set up again with a cable machine. You can see I've got attachment that allows for a comfortable grip. I'm lying on my back facing directly away from the cable machine. I've got my elbow bent to 90 degrees and my shoulder is just coming out to the side at 90 degrees as well. Then I'm just going to simply hold this position, keep it a nice strong neutral wrist, complete the allocated amount of time, and then swap sides. Both these are very, very simple and obviously easy to progress week by week. On the cable machine, I simply just knock it down a peg to increase the weight. Programming. So the first one, which is called the horizontal abduction isometric, 2 sets of 45 seconds, 3 times a week. And then the second one, lying external rotation iso, 2 sets of 45 seconds, 3 times a week. You want to use a challenging weight here with minimal to no pain. So if you think of a scale of 0 to 10, 10 is the worst pain imaginable, 0 is no pain. As long as you stay within that 0 to 2 out of 10 pain score range, you're absolutely fine. You want to try increase the weight week by week if you can. If you can't do this, then just bump up the 45-second hold, work your way up to a 60-second hold, and then increase the weight. Because sometimes on the cable machines, the jump is quite big between those stacks. Whereas obviously with a dumbbell, usually if you find small enough dumbbells or plates, you can jump up by a small amount, half a kilo or less than that. Because remember, these muscles are important for the shoulder, but they're not big muscles, so you don't actually need a lot of weight to stimulate and get them stronger. 3 times a week is plenty if you're working hard enough. So when you're doing the 2 sets of each of these exercises, make sure you're working hard. You can do them back to back. There's going to be nothing wrong with that because they're working slightly different muscles. So you can do the horizontal abduction iso, which is the one where you're lying on your side like this, 2 sets of 45 seconds on each side. Just rest as you need, so probably between 30 and 60 seconds. And then you can go straight into this one, again, 2 sets of 45 seconds each side, resting as you need to. 3 times a week, no more, working nice and hard. Again, just going back to this, it's not a quick fix, it's not a magical fix for your shoulder pain, it's a very small component of what makes up effective shoulder rehab. So we've got the injured painful joint, kinetic chain, great exposure. And then obviously within the painful / injured joint, which is the shoulder, this is only a small portion of that. So again, it's only 10, definitely not 20%, said 20% earlier, probably, 5-10% of effective shoulder rehab, but it'll definitely get you in the right direction because you'll start to see a lot of improvements in pain and your shoulders will start to get a lot stronger. Perfect. If you are interested in working with me, check out the top link down below, or if you just want 33 ways to reduce pain, improve your mobility and improve your confidence, check out the second link down below.